just recording this, everyone. Yeah, we're just recording this for people who can't make it tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm very pleased to introduce Robin Savage to our session of Robin. Some of you may have worked with Robin before. I know myself and Daniel have. And Bernard, I think, as well. Yeah, Bernard as well.
Nice, Bernard. Yeah. Hello, Bernard. Nice to see you.
Hello, Robin.
So, Robin,
looking very well.
Take it away. I mean, yeah, thanks for coming in.
All right. Okay, well, no, thank you very much. I'm going to just share my screen and get it onto the right thing, which is that. There we go. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, well, nice to meet you all. My name's Robin. I'm a headshot photographer. I've been a headshot photographer for 15 years professionally. I work in North London in a private studio in my house, which, as Danny said, a few of you will know. You'll see here from the title card that I'm a member of the APHP, which, if you don't know it yet, it's a fantastic organisation, and I'm going to come on to them a little bit later on. But they should be on your radar as an actor. They're really, really worth knowing. This is what people think I do from day to day. There hasn't been a social event where someone's asked me what I do for a living and I've said hedgehog photographer and they've thought I've said hedgehog photographer. So this is basically how the wider public know me as a hedgehog photographer. So I now say I'm an actor's photographer because to understand. It does actually kind of tie in better to what I do because I shoot a bit of production photography and publicity photography for theatres as well, so it's a little better in that respect. So here's what we're going to be doing today. The workshop is broken down into 3 sections. So before your session, during your session, and then after your session. There's also a section on myths because there's 2 myths that I'm particularly really keen to dispel. Myths about headshots, not about the Loch Ness Monster or ghouls or anything. And we'll do a Q&A at the end. Now, it's worth noting that the section on before your session is the biggest and largest section. And there's a very good reason for that, which will become clear as we go on. So let's have a discussion. What is a headshot used for? Feel free to take off your microphones and shout out. Let's get some opinions. What's a headshot used for?
Casting.
Casting, yeah. In what respect?
For example, on things like Spotlight, casting directors might look at your headshots, and that might be the first instance that they get to see you as an actor.
Yeah. So it's the first impression that someone has of you as an actor. Absolutely. Yeah. Anything else?
Branding.
Branding, yep. So to give people a clear indication of what your branding is as an actor. Yeah, very good. Anything else?
It's your calling card.
It is that. It is your calling card. Yes, I would agree entirely. Well, look, here's some depressing facts and figures. So that ends on a bit of a higher note. But these are important things for actors to know because this is real life. This is the real deal. So at the moment, there's more than 65,000 actors on Spotlight, and that's just Spotlight. And of course, that number grows every year. And if you include other casting directories, there's now around 200,000 actors in the UK. So it's a lot of people to contend with out there. Now, your Spotlight costs £162 per year. It's a lot of money, there's no denying it, but it's a business expense. As an actor, you are a business. Every business has expenses, bar none. So it's equivalent to, I mean, you know, has anybody here gone out and gone clothes shopping and spent about 150 quid all in one go, either on one item or a whole load of things? I'm sure most people have at some point. Danny has. And you pay this every year, and it's a really, really important directory to be on. Judi Dench is on it. So if she considers it important enough to be on I think everybody else can probably consider it important enough to be on. So it's a big one, that one. There's now more than 300 casting directors in the UK. That's a good thing. More casting directors generally means more work. And I think that's true. You know, we're in a bit of a golden age of TV at the moment. All the streaming platforms, you know, there's just so much good TV being made at the moment. Theatres are growing. We've had a really hard couple of years, of course, but you see sort of things being turned into theatres, pop-up theatres, all that kind of stuff are happening all over the place as well. So work is growing, pandemic aside. And there's also over 1,200 agents in the UK at the moment. So that's good. Lots of people to work with and help you through your careers. But those are, you know, quite sort of strong figures, 65,000 actors on Spotlight alone. So what can you do to help yourself as an actor? How can you stand out from the crowd a bit more? Well, here's a few ideas. So number one, continually practice your skills. Well, yeah, I mean, you've got to be on top of your game, right? You've got to find ways to be continually honing your skills, making sure you're the best that you can be, because as I'm sure you all know, self-tapes and auditions can come at the drop of a hat, and they can be the one that change your career. So you've got to make sure that you are top of your game and that you're the best you can be for if that audition comes in. Maybe 2 years ago, I photographed one of the Downton Abbey cast, and we were chatting during the session, and I said to him, what was Downton Abbey for you? Like, you know, what difference did that make to your career? And he said, it's the one you want. It's the one that takes you to the next level. You go to the next level of everything. Then you're in films. He's now got representation in the States, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that audition could come for you tomorrow. So just making sure you are on your A game is really, really important. Be current. What do I mean by that? Do I mean having the latest hairstyles and clothes and that kind of thing? Not at all. That's not what I mean at all. You've got to know what's happening in your industry. You've got to know what shows are on at the moment. You've got to know who's casting what's going into production, all that kind of stuff. That's really useful to you, not only in the sense that you could possibly get seen for it, but when you're going into auditions, you're meeting directors, you're meeting casting directors, you've got to be able to talk, you've got to be able to have a knowledge of who people are and what they're doing and those sorts of things. And it's not hard to do these days as well with social media, Twitter particularly, you know, and the internet. You can find out a lot of information. A decent self-tape setup. I'm sure you'll know the value of that. And it doesn't have to be expensive. If you're shooting a self-tape in the day and you've got a north-facing window, that's always going to be your best source of light, because a north-facing window doesn't have any direct sunlight. So you're not going to have sunlight coming into you, you know, blinding your eyes, creating weird shadows over your face, that kind of thing. So a north-facing window is great. If you've got other windows as well that aren't north-facing, that's equally fine. Just make sure you haven't got direct sunlight. If you've got to do it in the evening or it's winter and it's, you know, dark early, get a light. You can get lights really cheap. Bounce it off a wall, bounce it off a white wall. That's what I'm doing at the moment. And it'll just give you really nice, even lighting without any shadows, that kind of thing. For what's going on behind you, if you've got a plain wall, obviously that's great. But if you don't have a plain wall, you can go to places and buy like blinds, you know, cheap roll down blinds for a tenner. Hang it onto something, hang it onto a stand, roll it behind you. You've got a simple grey, non-distracting background behind you. So self-tape setups can be really cheap, but you've got to have a good one, which you can get on like that for when that self-tape comes in and need it first thing tomorrow morning. And a great show reel speaks for itself. If you want to work in the screen, you've got to have a great show reel. People have got to see you on screen. It doesn't have to be amazing. You know, it's that kind of vicious circle of what comes first. I can't get on TV without a show reel, but I can't get any footage for the show reel without being on TV. Well, of course, there's show reel companies who will make it for you, and you can use bits of student films and stuff like that. Casting directors aren't stupid. They don't want to see you in a Hollywood film to know you can act. If they can see you in something, doing your very best work, seeing the work that you do, seeing how you interpret a character or a script or something like that, that's what they want to see. They don't mind it isn't shot on massive Hollywood production unit sets, you know, that's not a problem. But all these things here, these are all workshops in themselves. I'm not here to talk about them. You probably know most of that stuff already. We're here to talk about this, headshots, and your headshot must stand out. So how do you do that? Well, we're going to talk about that as we go throughout the workshop, but the number one job is really, I would say, book a professional headshot photographer. Why do we do that? Well, headshot photographers are specialists. They're not generalists. They specialize in photographing actors in a promotional way. So they understand direction, they understand casting, they understand branding, let alone all the lighting and all that kind of stuff and everything. A good headshot photographer these days is going to be probably between £200 to £350 a session. Yes, it's a lot of money, but again, it's a business expense. It's an investment. Your headshots will generally last you 2 years. There is no set rule with that, but it's a really, really good investment. So there are people you've probably seen. There are photographers who you go on their website and they do weddings and they do pet portraits and they do actors' headshots and they do corporate photography, that kind of stuff. And there are people who are dedicated headshot photographers, but they're just starting out and they'll take you to a local park and charge you 50 quid, something like that, you know. Now, there's nothing wrong with them. There's no disrespect to them whatsoever. Everybody starts somewhere. But if your headshots look amateur, and that's the first thing and the only thing a casting director or somebody sees of you, they're going to see you in an amateur light. They're going to think you're an amateur actor. They're going to think you don't know how to be a professional photographer. You're not interested in your career. You're not interested in investing in your career. That's the impression they're going to get of you. If you book a professional headshot photographer, you've sidestepped all that stuff immediately. There's a reason, you know, that someone who has directed a couple of seasons of amateur theatre isn't suddenly plucked out to go and direct an entire season of The Crown. You know, you've got to work with someone who knows what they're doing and has earned their wings as a photographer and specialises in what they do. So where do you find a professional headshot photographer? I mean, there are a lot these days. There are tons of headshot photographers and loads of them really, really good as well. So you are kind of spoiled for choice. If you Google, I don't know, London headshot photographer, it's vast, you know, it's a bit overwhelming, the amount of people that are chucked back. So who do you know who to go with? The very first thing to do, I would say, is get recommendations. Now, if you're with an agent, they will probably recommend, you know, a handful of photographers to you. And that's a really good kind of first port of call, because generally they're going to be photographers that the agent has worked with numerous times and knows that their work is good and that it's reliable, and it's the kind of work which works with that agent, and they can use those photos to market you. So starting with your agent is a really good person to talk to about who to go to. But of course, you might not have an agent. You can talk to your friends. A really good thing to do maybe is look at your friends and their headshots and weigh up which headshots are really good representations of your friends. You know your friends. Which of those headshots are good representations of them as an actor? And find out which of those photographers have done those pictures. You can go on social media and ask for recommendations about headshot photographers. It's a little bit hit and miss, because I think a lot of the time you just get photographers promoting themselves on there. But it's another avenue if that's a way you want to go. Look at whose work speaks to you. There's quite often a synergy between an actor and a photographer, and that's for a reason. You know, it's art at the end of the day, and one person will look at a piece of art and just think, oh no, I find that cold and unappealing, whereas someone else will look at the exact same piece of art and say, I love that. That moves me tremendously. Same situation here. Whose work as a photographer excites you? That's a really good starting point as well. If you see some headshots and you think, oh my God, they're great, find out who it is and have a look. And that's the next thing, research. You've got to, once you've kind of got a short list of photographers, go onto their websites. Most photographers will tell you a bit about, you'll obviously see their portfolio, but they'll probably tell you a bit about how they work, where they work, obviously their prices, what's important to them in a session, those sorts of things. And go on their social media. You'll be able to see the kind of work they've been shooting recently, because headshot photographer styles change a little bit over the years, over the time, you know, but look on social media, you'll see what's current, because we don't always update our websites all the time, you know. And you'll also be able to see who's been shooting headshots fairly sort of regularly. If you go on someone's Instagram and the last time they posted a headshot was summer last year or something, probably not a very good, you know, person to be pursuing maybe. So do your research, find out what is what. And that takes me on to the APHP. This is a really, really great starting point for your search. So if you haven't heard of the APHP, it's the Association of Professional Headshot Photographers. It was founded in 2016, and there's about 26 members at the moment. Every member has been qualified by the APHP, and what that means is that they are a tried and tested headshot photographer. They're very experienced. It's what they do full time. It's their living. It's not something they do on the side to try and make a little bit of money. It's their career. They know how to deal with and get pictures from anybody who walks into their studio. And there's about, I think it's 26 members. So if you start looking through the members gallery, you'll again see you can see whose photos are on there and which ones start to speak to you. But you can see here from the slide, all APHP members have a wealth of experience, often decades. They're a professional portraitist specializing in sole headshots for the entertainment industry. They're very skilled technically. They've got superior equipment plus a keen understanding of light, composition and style to suit every face. Loads of knowledge, up-to-date industry-specific expertise. So it's just a really good starting point to check out. Have a look at the website or on social media. So let's move on to the first section of the workshop. Before your session, we're going to do a little exercise. So I'm going to show you a casting brief first of all. So here's a casting brief. Female, 20 to 30, supply teacher. She's warm and friendly. She enjoys her job. She's very good with the kids, but she's suffering at the hands of a bullying boss. Okay, I've just spotted a typo in there. Apologies. I made that this morning today, so that'll be gone. Right, okay, so have a look at these photos. Who do you think? That casting brief, who fits the brief?
Middle top right.
That's all you're getting. That's all you're getting. Okay, we're going to move on. Here's another casting brief. Male, 30 to 40, professional criminal. He's in control, has people dealing drugs for him so he can keep his hands clean, and his family don't know what he does. Okay, here's some more photos. So have a look. Who fits the brief?
Bottom left.
Okay, so you've just basically been a casting director. That's about as long as casting directors will take looking through photos, and probably not as big as you've just seen them. They see thousands of photos, they're scanning through them, and they're trying to identify who to investigate further to then maybe bring in for a meeting. That's how quick you get. Let's go back though, because people are calling out. The two Dans are calling out. So let's hear. So this first brief, the supply teacher. Shout out. Who fits the brief in your opinion?
Bottom in the middle to the left.
Yeah, I would have said
In the
that.
brown dress.
In the brown dress, and why is that?
She looks
Because she looks caring and but also like she could do some good tough love.
Some tough love. Okay, that's cool. Who else? What else?
I think.
This was the one.
Sorry.
Sorry, it's okay.
I was going to say the middle top, the girl in the denim.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Denim. Okay.
I agree with that one.
And what? So some people are saying that. James, I see you nodding as well. Why is that?
I think that the way she looks, she seems like she has quite a nice, caring. I would think from looking at that headshot, she seems like she has a nice, caring relationship with children. I think she would get on well with teaching children. She looks like the sort of person who would do that, I think.
Okay. So it's a
I
quality.
think-
Quality.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think she looks too sassy personally. She's got a bit of a hey, look at me kind of thing. Whereas I would go, I love the smiley girl, the second in on the top row.
With the yellow strappy top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the
warm.
top isn't quite right though, but I like her smile.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. Let's go on to the drug line runner. I don't know what you call him. So this chap, who thinks what for him? He's a family man. Let's remember.
I'm sticking with bottom left
Bottom left. Why is that, Daniel?
Yeah, agreed.
because he looks the cleanest in a way. You know, I don't want to insult everybody else. This has been recorded, but he looks like somebody you wouldn't necessarily notice on the street.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. That's great. Any other thoughts? Anything contrast that?
I think up second from the left, second from the left, the bottom. Second from
The
the
guy
left,
in the kind of blue denim
the
shirt.
bottom. Yeah.
I just want to confirm, Robin, that none of these guys are actually drug dealers. I just want
I don't
to.
know. They're all people I photographed. I don't know how they make their money, Daniel. I can't comment on that. They certainly didn't tell me they were, if they were. So the guy bottom row, second in from the left in the blue shirt. Why is that? Why do you think him?
Well, he looks quite intense, but he also looks quite clean in a way. So he could be in a family that they don't know about
Yeah. Okay.
what he's
Okay.
doing.
I see that. All right. Well, look. Let's move on. So we're
He's got
talking about
something
sort
in
of
his eyes that
something in his eyes.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I just thought, yeah, it could be.
Well, there's no right or wrong,
His
like I
eyes
say.
quite,
It's
that
opinion.
is, yeah, so.
Cool. Okay. So what we're talking about is casting here. Okay. And that brings me on to the tip number one, which is know your casting. Now, I would say this is the basis of a good headshot session. Okay. It's really important. I'm going to come on to sort of why it's important in a minute, but you've got to break down your casting and understand what it is. So how do you do that? Well, sorry, I've skipped forward one too many then. How do you do that? It's again, go back to people that you know. Your agent is a really good person to help you with that. If you don't know what your casting is, graduates find it a little difficult to know what they
It's you. It's not you lot. It's Robin. Robin, you're glitching. I think quite a bit.
Well, am
You're
I?
back now.
Okay.
Yeah, you're back
Am I
now.
back
You
now?
missed that last bit, I think.
Okay, right, I'll rewind a little bit. I was just saying that it's good to talk to directors and actors who you've worked with. They'll see your process. They'll know kind of what it is that you bring to a character or to the stage or to a screen or something. Canvas opinions, and people can help you work out what your casting is. And that's a really important thing to do. You can ask yourself, you know, what would I realistically be cast as? What do you look like? What kind of person do you look like? You call that your visual stereotype. Here's a really important question to ask yourself. What do you want people to learn about you as an actor from your photos? And it's important to identify this because, as I already revealed, you can't play everything. Nobody can play everything. Even Gary Oldman can't play everything, okay? You've got to understand your type and your casting. So, there we go. Once you've done that, once you've identified what your casting is, you're going to make a list. Be concise and be honest. That's really, really important. And this is what's going to help you in your session, because if you've made that list, you can then plan. You can plan your tops. You can plan what you're going to do with your hair. You know, hair like mine doesn't change. If I was going for a headshot session, it would stay like this throughout. But if you've got hair you want to change, have ideas. What can you do with your hair to help nudge you towards the characters you want to get seen for, the kind of work you want to get seen for, what your casting is? Same with the tops. You know, what tops do I need that's going to suggest me playing a delicate, fragile kind of person? You know what I mean? That's my casting. That's what I'm good at. How do I convey that with those kind of things? So you can also ask the question, what have other people done in their headshots to convey their casting, to add range to their photos? Let's have a look at that. Let's talk about range and what people are doing to convey different things in photos. So here's two photos. Same person, of course, but very different feels in the photos. So again, let's hear from you guys. Just call out, what is she doing or has she done differently that gives the photo such different feelings?
I think one thing is the hair, that in the first one is tied up and the other one is back. It gives a different feel to both of them. I feel like the one to the right is a bit more relaxed in a way.
Yeah. Okay, so
Smile.
the hair, major change?
The smile.
The smile, of course. So yeah, the emotion in the photo. That's a huge thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a really, really massive thing.
And the clothes.
Yeah,
Clothes.
the
And
top-
also
so-
one's head face on and one is slightly at an angle.
Absolutely. So we're looking at the position of the body, and we're looking at body language. Now, the things you've mentioned there are all really, really valid things. So you'd use these two photos, obviously, for very different castings. But these photos, I don't recall exactly, but they could have been taken 10 minutes apart, you know. So yes, it's the hair. Yes, it's the top. Yes, it's the emotion of the photograph. But yeah, as you say, it's the body language. And we read body language in photographs really well. It's not just in person, face to face. If you look at the photo on the left, you see how she's just slightly lifting her chin, and she's just slightly on the back foot, and that gives a quality of a little bit of defiance, a little bit of attitude, maybe something like that, a bit of distrust, those kind of things. So it's not just the tops that you wear and how you do your hair and your makeup and those kind of things. It's that body language. Let's look at this guy here. So again, nothing massively different, but also they're two photos you'd use for different castings completely. On the left, he's maybe he's warmer, he's more professional, perhaps a little cleaner cut. On the right, he's challenging you somewhat. If you look at his face, look at the eye contact, look at how much he's looking at you in the photo. He's got something he wants to say to you. So that's the intent in the photographs. And look at the way he's sitting as well, his shoulders raised. There's a little bit of something, a bit of discomfort, a bit of something on edge. We're not quite sure. The one on the left, he's much more relaxed. You know, he's a doctor or whatever it is, you know, teacher, something like that. Let's look at this one. So this is a bit more of a direct change, I would say. So again, it's the same things. The hair is different. The top is different. The makeup is different. But what's really interesting is her head is almost on the same angle. Her body's at a very similar sort of angle. But one of the main reasons why these photos are so different is her intent again. It's what she's doing in the photo. So the photo on the right, that was something she wanted for a bit more kind of edgy kind of parts, a bit more kick-ass kind of stuff. And on the left, she's a musical theatre performer, so it's a photo for Chicago, that kind of stuff, that kind of casting, you know. So on the right, it's just that slight lift of the chin that has given her a little bit of a questioning kind of thing. What are you looking at? Why are you looking at me? What do you want? On the left, she's dipped the chin slightly, and there's just she's got her lips apart in both photos, but on the left, she's got a very slight smile. So it's a little bit more maybe flirtatious, a bit more alluring, something like that. And even look at her eyes. On the right, her eyes are a little narrower. They're just kind of got that kind of a bit of power about them. On the left, her eyes are a little wider, so a little more seductive. So she's done really well on those photos. You know, we've changed the tops, we've changed the hair. I've changed how I'm shooting her, background and lighting wise, to help support what we want from those photos. But it's those changes in emotion. That's what kind of really gives the photos those, helps finish it off what you want to say in the photos. So what is important in a headshot? You could talk about all kinds of things, about looking square into the camera, it being a head and shoulders shot, those kind of things. But we have a great wealth of information here. I think it was last year or the year before, I'm not sure, the APHP surveyed 100 casting directors, and they asked them, one of the questions they asked them was, what's the most important features of a headshot and a headshot portfolio? 97% said, who wants to have a bash? Who wants to have a guess?
The eyes.
What about the eyes?
Actually, I'm not sure. I just heard that off the top of my head.
Intent. The intent behind the eyes.
Yeah, that's very important. That's very important. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd probably say it has to look like you, which sounds really obvious, but do you know what I mean? Rather than some made-up version of yourself looking glamorous.
You get 10 points because it was a good physical likeness. That's the most important thing to casting directors, is a good physical likeness. So that's really important. Let's just quickly work our way through the rest of the stats. 90% up to date, 53% well lit, 52% captures hair color and skin tone accurately, 43% eyes looking to camera, 37% neutral representation of the actor, and 30% the frame is filled with the actor's head and shoulders. It's all really interesting stuff, really useful stuff for us as actors and as headshot photographers. But I want to discuss that 37%. 37% neutral representation of the actor. Now, that's not a high number of casting directors that think you should be neutral in your photos. And I think that's because it's something that casting directors are going to just assume you do anyway. And it is that intent. It's the intent in the photos. It's one of the main things which adds range to a photo. So intention is kind of, it's what you say in the photo. It's about energy, it's about body language, and it's about communication. Let's have a quick look at this slide here. These two actors, obviously very different actors. Now, similar to what we were just talking about, let's talk about the lady on the right, first of all. So she wanted a photo which was warm, nurturing, maternal, that kind of stuff. And one of the tops she bought was this blue knitted jumper. Spot on for that kind of feel. Knitted gives that kind of soft kind of feel, you know, and she's got blue eyes, so blue top, blue eyes, she double wins there, you know. But look at her face. Look at how much she's looking at you in the photo and how authentic that warmth is that she's doing. You know, you can't just do your hair in a nice kind of soft manner and have a nice kind of jumper which gives that kind of, you know, nurturing quality. If you're not doing it in the eyes, if you're not doing it in the face, the photo has failed. You know, emotion is the very, very first thing you see in a photo. The guy on the left, Peaky Blinders, you know, he wanted a photo of that kind of style. And I think, he's nailed it in that photo. Again, the t-shirt, spot on, his hair, spot on. But look at his eyes. Look at the challenge and the defiance in his eyes. Great for Peaky Blinders, you know. So that's the thing you really need to be working on is that intent in your photos. Now, it's another reason to go to a professional, experienced headshot photographer. They'll get that out of you. They will work with you. They're not going to just say, right, stand there, turn that way, now turn that way, change tops, put your hair up. You know, they're going to be directing you the whole time to get that intent because they know that that's the most important thing in the photo. So let's move on to the next tip. Be happy with your look. So we're still talking about before the session at this point. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by be happy with your look? Well, here's a few things. So make sure your hair is how you want it. Don't get it cut the day before, because if it goes a bit wrong, if it goes a bit too short, something like that, you're kind of knackered, you know. If you know that your hair needs a week to grow in or a month to settle or whatever, you know, plan that. Make sure you get your hair done in that time frame. And bring stuff with you so that you've got stuff to change your hair as you go during the session. Most photographers have got things in their studios, but if you know you've got a particular product or a particular grip or something that works really well for your hair, make sure you pack it. People often forget curling irons or straighteners, those kind of things. They get left behind sometimes, and they're really important things because curly hair versus straight hair can say a big difference in the photo. So make sure you pack those things. So makeup, keep your makeup day to day. What I mean by that is don't go sort of drab. Don't undersell yourself, but don't overcook it. It's got to be how you are every day. It's easier for casting directors to imagine you with more makeup than it is for them to imagine you with less makeup. So just keep it simple, but as you would if you were just, you know, going out, not going out in the evening, but going out to see a friend or something like that for lunch, you know, whatever. But bring it with you because often we might have to touch up a little bit. You know, if you're on a hot, sweaty tube, you might have to touch it up when you get here. You might want to make a change. Like Lucy, we saw just a few photos ago, who had the photo for Cabaret, Chicago, sorry. You know, she put a really strong red lip on and a sort of strong eyeliner. That's not going to be a main spotlight photo, but she wanted that in her portfolio. So she brought the makeup with her that she needed to get that look. Do you have a beard or stubble? It can say quite a big difference if you shave that off during the session. It can be quite transformative. So, you know, again, bring stuff with you to shave. Most photographers, I'm sure, will be absolutely fine with you shaving during the session. So have it with you. I spoke to a casting director a while ago, and she said, which I found really interesting, she said if she sees an entire spotlight gallery and the actor has got a beard in every single photo, she felt like that they were hiding something. So make of that what you will. I'm not saying you can't have a beard in all of your photos on Spotlight, but just something to think about. Glasses are really great. They can be, again, really transformative. They can add loads of character to a photo. They can sometimes be a bit of a barrier or have reflections and things, but again, decent headshot photographers can deal with that kind of stuff. So bring them, because again, there's sometimes things that get left behind, but they can really add a completely new element to a photo. Don't worry about spots. Loads of people come into the studio and they freak out because a massive zit has arrived right there, and they're like, my God, it's headshot day. Why today? Why have you come today? It is the simplest thing to get rid of in Photoshop, okay? It means nothing. And if you cover it up, you know, any kind of makeup, any kind of cover up is never going to be exactly the same skin tone as your skin. So in a high resolution, large photograph of your face, we're going to see that makeup. If you've got a little spot there, it's really easy for me to retouch, or a shaving cut, or any kind of blemish or anything, you know, really easy for me to retouch. What Photoshop actually does, I'm going to get boring and technical here, but it's important, is it uses, say you've got a spot here, it uses the good skin from next to the spot to kind of heal over the spot, and then using an algorithm kind of blends it all in. So it's entirely natural. You get nothing there that looks abnormal at all. Whereas if you've got kind of makeup all over it, that's going to look weird and abnormal, and I'm going to have to retouch the entire kind of thing, you know. So, so don't worry about spots or anything like that, or bags under the eyes. All that is taken care of. It's important you're rested and drink water so you've got energy for this session. But cosmetic stuff we can deal with. No makeup for guys. People who identify as male, you know, stay away from makeup. Same rule about the spots, of course. You know, you don't need to cover those up. As an example, I had a guy once came in and he put fake tan on the night before for his headshots, and he had this kind of, it was like fake tan, pale white line right there, then hair, and it was just a nightmare. So you just don't need anything. You don't need any kind of cover up or liner or anything at all. You know, we can do all the stuff that we need to do in the session. Most importantly, be happy with your look. And what I mean by that is love your face, embrace your face, love your face. Nobody else in the world has got your face. How you interpret a script or portray a character, all that's really important, of course. But you have your face is so unique. That kink in your nose, that bit of hair, your jawline that you hate, it might be that little quirk that gets you called in for an audition. You never know. So you've got to just really love who you look. Nobody loves everything about their face, but as an actor, you've got to learn to embrace what you look like, because it's the most unique thing about you, really. So let's move on. We talked about retouching. Let's have a very quick look at what it does. This is a photo I shot maybe a couple of years ago of a guy. Now this is the photo as it comes straight out of the camera. So nothing has been done to this at all. That's it retouched. Okay, so we can flick between this a couple of times and have a look at what's going on here. So first of all, let's look underneath his eyes. So he doesn't really have particularly bad bags, but you can see a little bit of discoloring and that kind of stuff. You see the retouching doesn't get rid of it. It just pulls it back a little bit. So it's natural. If it was just completely clean under his eyes, it would look really weird, because no one's completely smooth under their eyes there, you know. So that kind of stuff can be done in gradients. You know, so there's some lighting setups which will accentuate bags under eyes. It'll give you really good like jawline, really make you look really dramatic or something, but it can accentuate the bags. So the retouching just pulls it back a little bit to what's natural to you. We're looking at spots. He doesn't have too many, of course, but if you look underneath his mouth on the right-hand side as you're looking at it, there's a little spot there which just goes with the retouching. See what I mean? So it's really easy to get rid of. On his forehead at the top, there's a few little marks, little blemishes. They go like that, you know, it's very natural. And I've just added a little bit of contrasting color grading and that kind of stuff, just to add a bit more color to his skin. He was a little washed out under the lights. So the point is that the retouching is natural. There's nothing there that's going to be weird or kind of abnormal or fake. It's just to get rid of temporary distractions. And like I say, things like bags under the eyes, they need just pulling back a little bit from a lighting setup or something like that. So it's all very, very natural indeed. Let's just do, for the last bit of this section, let's just do a bit more focused stuff on tops, because this is something that comes up a lot. People often say, I don't know what tops to bring, you know. So there is really no right or wrong with tops. They are individual to you. like I was saying at the beginning, if you've done your homework, if you've worked out what your casting is, you're going to be most of the way there. That's why it's individual to you. You've got to think about what tops are going to help nudge your photos towards what your casting is, suggest your casting, subtle suggestions. So if you've done your homework, you're going to have a good idea of what tops you're going to bring already. But as well as your casting, think about your skin tone, your eye and your hair color. You'll probably know what tops look good on you. You'll probably have had compliments, over the years of a color or a style that suits you. The top will probably make you feel really good. It's a powerful top. You want to look good going out. It's the top, one of those tops you'll probably put on. So you'll have a good idea of what colors and things like that work for your hair and eyes and skin tone, that kind of stuff. So just make sure you're thinking about that as well. Give us range. Mix up the colors of your tops, the necklines, the types of tops and the materials. So colors, black looks good on everyone pretty much. It's simple, it's flattering, doesn't always say a hell of a lot. So don't bring just black. Good to have the odd one or two tops in there, but get a nice range of colors if you can. The necklines, let's not forget we're here, right? So neckline is really evident. So you're going to see the necklines, it's going to add quite a bit of range and contrast to your photos. So have a think about how it's sitting on you, how it's looking and that kind of stuff. And again, bring a range of necklines. The types of tops. So here's a story. I had a client come in some time ago, and we had a chat at the beginning of the session and spoke about her casting. And she said, I'm good at playing sort of authority. I want to get seen for barristers and lawyers and sort of commissioners and that sort of stuff. And I thought, yeah, I can see how that works for you visually. That's a great thing. She got her tops out, and she bought 3 fluorescent t-shirts, a pink one, a green one, and an orange one. I kid you not. So that didn't help, and my heart kind of sank when I saw the tops she got out, because there's no way we can suggest really what we want to suggest with those tops. So the types of tops, make sure you've got a range of those. Is it strappy tops, is it halter necks, is it shirts, is it t-shirts, is it granddad shirts, jumpers, all that kind of stuff. And that plays into the materials. As we said earlier, knitted stuff can look quite soft and quite warm, those kind of things. A lacy top on girls can be quite good for period kind of work, or something delicate. So just think about the materials as well. Leather or denim, it's a bit harder, and just get some range in there. As I mentioned, jackets. If you want to get seen for someone who's a bit of a bruiser, someone who's a bit edgy, a bit corrupt, whatever, a leather jacket, a denim jacket can look quite hard sometimes. So think about jackets. It's nice to layer up as well. Layers look quite good in headshots as well. And bring lots. You don't want to get weighed down, coming on the tube, but at the same time, just bring what you can. I say 10 to 12 as a kind of base is about right, because we're not going to shoot all of those. But some tops aren't going to work. I photographed someone once, and they had a shirt that was this kind of stripy shirt. It looked really good. They put it on and thought, yeah, that's good. Took a picture of them. Again, because we're here, we don't have the context of below here. It looked like pajamas. It looked like they were wearing pajamas. So it was really not good to have in a headshot. So we had to ditch that top and find something else. So if you've made a list of, say, 5 casting types that you want to get seen for, you think is your casting bracket, don't just bring 5 tops, 1 for each. Have range, because it might not work. One of the tops you bring might not work. So just make sure you've got options for each. Tatty clothes will look tatty in a headshot. It's as simple as that. If they're a bit threadbare, they're well worn, they're well washed, their colours faded, they've got threads hanging off them, that's what you're going to see in the photo. Now look, you're investing in a headshot session, you've got spotlight to pay for, all that kind of stuff. So you might not be able to go out and have a whole new wardrobe, but what you can do is go out to the shops, and a lot of people do this, buy the tops, leave the labels in, wear them, take them back. You didn't hear that from me, okay? But that is what a lot of people do. And you're wearing them for like 10-15 minutes. If you look after them, if you fold them, look at them nicely, it's fine, and it's going to give you some really nice new clothes which are going to look great and help you in your headshot session. So you might not need to do that, but it's just a tip if you do need to do it. And please pack them properly. I kid you not, this is true. I have had people more than one occasion turn up with a carrier bag with tops just shoved in them and carried across London like that, and they're pulled out, and of course they're just completely creased and ruined, and they just look awful in the photos. So please pack them properly and carry them properly. I'm sure most people have got a suit bag or something, a wheelie suitcase, which you can put them nicely in to go to do your journey to your headshot photographer. So there's some thoughts on tops. Right, let's move on to during your session. Shorter sections, these ones. How is time? Okay, yes. Right, during your session, brief your photographer. You've done your homework. You've worked out all that you need to know about yourself. You've canvassed opinions. You've asked people's advice, all that kind of stuff. As I said earlier, the first thing I do is sit down at the start of a session and talk to people about what their casting is and what they want from this session. So have a brief ready. Trust me, your photographer will love it. There is no photographer who will not love you turning up and saying, here's who I am as an actor, here's the kind of pictures I think will really help me. And your photographer will work with you to get those pictures. So have a brief and brief the photographer. Here's tip number 4, it's all about communication. So how do you communicate in a photograph? I'm going to talk to you now, but I'm going to basically say what I say to my clients at the start of the session. So the people who are here that I photographed, this will sound very familiar to you. So the most important thing in headshots is your eyes. It's a really active process having your picture taken. Sometimes people think you're just sort of sitting there doing nothing while your picture's being taken, but it's the opposite. You've got to be communicating, you've got to be saying something in the photograph. And it's very similar to making an offer as an actor. So what we're trying to avoid is you being passive, disconnected, thoughtless, vacant, dead eyes. Makes a really lifeless picture that people just kind of tend to skip over. So what we're looking for, I think how you can relate to it as an actor is if you imagine doing a scene with someone on stage and they've got the text and you're just listening to what they're saying, even though you're not physically speaking yourself, you're still present, you're engaged, you're switched on, you're active, you're listening, you're responding, and all those things make you connected to the other actor. So we're looking for the same connection, but between you and the camera, because the camera is the viewer of the photograph. It's the casting director, the agent, the producer, whatever. And if you're connected to the camera, that means you're connected to them. And that means when they look at your photo, they see you looking back out the photo at them. So it's nice and arresting. They get the feeling that you're making eye contact, you're looking at them just as much as they're looking at you. And that's one of the main things that makes a photo pop forwards. So I think a nice way to start to go about doing that is, it's almost like if you imagine tipping forwards and letting whatever's inside you spill out and paint your face. So we can clearly see your intentions and your thoughts and your emotions, those kind of things. And to that end, I ask people to be open, committed, and responsive. What does that mean? Let me break it down. Being open, it's about being open to the process. If you resist the process, you're probably not going to have a very successful session. Photographers will ask you to do weird things sometimes. There's a lot of leaning in headshot sessions. I'm sure all you guys have had sessions have been asked to lean forward. That's a huge part of sessions. It's all about communication and body language. But we ask you to do even weirder things. Like I ask people to sometimes just push their head forwards like a pigeon and call it pigeon head. And the faces people do, they're like, really? Am I doing it? Is this it? You can't see what I can see. It's a weird thing to experience, but it looks good in the photo. So it's about being open to those processes and trusting it. You've booked in with this photographer for a reason. You like their work. You've been recommended to them. Trust the process. Committed. Commit to yourself to the process as well. It's about not doing something because someone's asked you to do it. It's about owning it and making it your own. It's the same way. It's the same thing as taking a bit of direction from a director. You've got to make it yours, to make it authentic and make it believable. I love it in a session if we're going for a particular idea or something, and we take some photos, and the person I'm photographing, somebody says, hang on, can I do that again? I don't think I was quite there. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it again. And something different happens, So it's making it your own, using this time to get the photos that you want. Or another example, I'll ask them to sit in a particular way, and they kind of sit in it, and then they go, hang on a second. And I see them just move a few muscles. I see them rejig. I see them do something. And suddenly they're still sitting the same way that I've asked them to, but they're owning it. They're suddenly really present and it's really authentic. So that's what I mean, commit to what we're doing. Being responsive, what I mean by that is if we're shooting and so I talk a lot in sessions. I think a lot of photographers talk in sessions to the client while they're working with them. And the reason is if I'm engaging you, you're engaged in the photo. So we get these really nice, lovely, engaged photos. So I think it's a pretty common technique for headshot photographers to use, to talk to the person they're talking to. People who've had sessions, I'm sure you've experienced it. So what I say is that if we're shooting and something makes you laugh, for example, don't feel you've got to stifle that and do like a headshot face. Whatever response comes, let it happen, let it breathe, let it live, because that can make the really nice, alive, kind of fizzy kind of headshots. You know, say we're going for a really edgy kind of look and you giggle in the middle of it. I'll get a shot of that giggle and we've got a really nice kind of genuine smiley photo. We'll get back to doing the edgy stuff afterwards, you know. So don't suppress the responses that come from you. It's again about being open. Just let them come out. There's a thing that happens sometimes. If I'm talking to someone in the session and we're having a really good laugh, and they're sort of laughing, smiling, I bring the camera up and suddenly it's blue steel. As soon as the camera comes up, you know, I'm like, no, don't do that. Those really nice sort of laughy warm moments were great. That's what I want to get, you know, but the camera's there suddenly. So you've got to kind of almost forget the camera's there, you know, and just have those genuine natural responses. So that's what I mean about communication. After your session, what do you do after your session? So you've been to a headshot photographer, you've had a great session, and they've sent you a gallery of maybe 200 to 300 images or something like that. How do you choose the ones which are going to represent you on Spotlight? Well, here's the main tip. Don't choose the photos yourself, okay? It's impossible to be objective looking at photos of yourself with the greatest will in the world, even if you've got your best casting head on and you're thinking which are the ones that are going to sort of sell me on Spotlight the best and show off my casting. Even subconsciously, you're most likely going to be thinking that earlobe, I hate my right earlobe. So I'm going to choose a photo where it's hidden like that. Yeah, I'll go for that. That's nice. That's not going to necessarily be the best photo for you. So you've got to get advice, talk to people. Now, again, your agent is a really good person in a really good position to help you choose your photos, because they're going to look at the photos purely objectively, purely with a casting eye, and they're going to know which photos are going to help them market you the way they need to market you. So they're a really, really good person to talk to. But again, if you don't have an agent or you want some further advice, you know, talk to people who I was saying before, you know, that you've worked with, directors and actors who know you as an actor. They can help pick out those photos which really identify your brand and what you bring to a character or something like that, you know. So just get advice. You'll probably know, you know, 3 or 4 people who you trust and you know you really well as an actor. Talk to them, get some feedback. You can go on social media and ask for feedback. It's not always the best idea because people are often just a little overkind or those kind of things, you know. But it is another avenue, something to think about. And feel free to give your photographer some retouching notes. In fact, I encourage it. The retouching, as I showed you earlier, it will get rid of blemishes, bags under eyes, stray hairs. It's those temporary distractions. But sometimes people are keen for something to be left in or something to be taken out, or just you know, I had a guy recently who said he felt his top, and his agent felt his top was a little too blue. Could I just sort of slightly desaturate the blue of his top? No problem. That's fine. It's not quite so overbearing then, you know. So give me retouching notes. But here's the important thing. Make sure you give the notes at the point of giving your retouches. When you send an email or however the photographer system is set up that you give them your retouches, make sure you put the notes in at that point. 2 days ago, I sent someone their retouches and I got an email back the following day after I'd done the retouches, sent them out to them. I got an email back the next day saying, oh, great, thanks very much. Here's my retouching notes. And I was like, you're a little late to do that. So it's kind of similar to saying to a builder, hey, can you build me a house? Yeah, no problem. They build you a house and say, oh, it's really lovely. Here's the plans of the house I want. It's, do you know what I mean? Just make sure you give the notes at the point of giving your retouches. Right, now here's something that comes up sort of fairly regularly and is a bit confusing sometimes, and I'm not surprised why. So mic's off. Who owns the photos? You've had your photos, they've given you your retouches, you're using your retouches on social media and Spotlight and on your website, and your agent's sending them off left, right and centre. Who owns the photos?
No, you do.
You being who?
Oh, sorry, the photographer.
The photographer. That's absolutely right, Danny. It is indeed the photographer. Now, some people know that, some people don't know that. So I think it's really important just to sort of clear that up. the photographer, unless agreed otherwise, will own the copyright of the photographs. Now, what that means for you is not too much, because you basically have license to use an agreed amount of photographs, i.e. the retouches. The retouches are the photos that you will use. So when there's an agreed amount included in a session, that's to do with how many photos are being licensed to you from that session for use. And then you pay for any extra ones that you want. Part of that payment is for the work done on the retouching, and the other part of the payment is to license those photographs. It's usually there in headshot photographers' terms and conditions, but it isn't always that clear. So what it means for you is not a lot, really, because the license will include everything you need it for, for your marketing as an actor. So like I say, social media, your website, Spotlight, your agent to use them, those kind of things. The license will cover all that. What it doesn't cover is when the photos are used by a third party for their own promotional material. So if you've been interviewed in a magazine or something, and they want to use, instead of getting a photographer to photograph you, you've in this great new drama on TV, and you've got a profile in there, and they want to interview you in the magazine, they want to use your headshot. Well, no, that's when the magazine needs to contact the photographer, because the license doesn't cover that. So, those are sort of quite specific examples, but it's when the photo is being used for third party. I had a phone call some time ago. A client who I'd photographed was in a Richard Curtis film, and in the film there was a theatre, and they wanted to use his headshot as a prop in the theatre, front of the house. And they had to pay me a license to use that photograph, because the license of the actor, when he had his retouches, doesn't cover that, doesn't cover use in a Richard Curtis film as a prop. So that's just something to think about, just to bear in mind. You're not going to have to worry about it for your own promotional material, but if the photos are being used elsewhere, just contact your photographer to make sure that that's all okay. Danny, how are we for time? Are we all right?
We've got a few minutes. I was just going to check in with everyone just to see if there's any kind of burning questions that we had from anyone. If so, do unmute yourself. No? Okay.
I'm going to move on to myths then. So like I say, 2 myths which I want to dispel. Myth 1, I hear this quite a lot still. This is a really old way of thinking. And to this day, drama schools are still telling their students this. Some drama schools, I should say, or maybe some tutors in drama schools are telling people this. You can't smile with teeth in a headshot. And it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. So we've done the casting director exercise, right? You're a casting director. Your brief is you're looking for someone who's the life and soul of a party, carefree. When they walk into a room, they light up the room. You get these 2 actors submitted to you. Who are you more likely to bring in for that audition? It goes without saying, right? It's who was that? Tanya. It's a great smile. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And what you see there is you're not looking at his teeth. You're looking at his energy. You're looking at the quality of what he brings to the photograph. So if anybody says to you, you can't smile in it with teeth in a headshot, ignore it. It's absolute nonsense. Myth number 2, and I've still kept that as myth number 1, but it is myth number 2. There's another typo.
Robin?
Yes.
Can I just say something very quickly? It's that kind of half smile that I don't think works. It's neither kind of, hey, look at me, or it's something in between that just then looks like a happy snap kind of thing.
Well, I think that's down to the individual. I think that's kind of, if it works for you as an individual, there just is no set rule.
Okay.
If when you're having headshots done, if that sort of, if it doesn't really say much about you, if that kind of half smile, and that happens sometimes. Sometimes people are just much better at big teethy smiles. It suits them so much better. I wouldn't worry about it. Do you know what I mean? If you're doing that in the session and it's not quite working, it isn't really your thing. It doesn't really say what you needed to say about your casting. I just wouldn't worry about it. Daylight is better than studio light. Well, is it? Who's heard that before? Quick show of hands. Danny's heard it. Tanya's heard it. Anybody else? Janet? Cool. Okay. All right. Well, look, here's another little exercise. Okay. Here's 3 headshots that I took. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to tell me which of these photos are lit with studio light and which are lit with daylight. Okay, you can either unmute or you can put it in the chat. I don't know, whatever you want to do. But have a look and tell me which you think. Which are lit with studio light and which are lit with daylight?
The one in the
I
blue
would
jacket.
think.
So go on.
The one in the blue jacket is daylight.
So blue jacket is
Yeah.
daylight and the other two are studio light.
One on the right, studio line.
The guy in the yellow jumper, okay, all right.
Maybe the other studio light as well, the girl.
The girl, okay. Any other thoughts?
They're all studio light.
They're all studio lights, okay. I mean, you're closest, Tanya. Yeah, none of these are exclusively daylight. The two on the left are studio light with a bit of daylight mixed in. The one at the top is predominantly studio light with a little bit of daylight, but shot outside. The one below is outside, daylight mixed with flash, both lighting him and in the background as well. And the one on the right is entirely studio light. There's not a single bit of daylight in that one at all. But the point is, it doesn't matter. It makes no difference whatsoever. You don't need to worry about whether you're going to be lit with daylight or studio light. What you need to worry about is the photos. If you've booked with a photographer because you love their photos and you want to be photographed by them, it doesn't matter how they light you. It doesn't matter what light they use. Modern studio light these days is amazing. It's brilliant, and it looks very much like daylight. You know, it can do if that's what you want. You know, it looks very natural and very soft. As the photo on the right is, you know, it's entirely studio light, but it's very natural lighting. So the point is, don't worry about what kind of light it is. That's it. Step 2. This is me, Robin Savage. There's my handles. Really stupidly, all my social media handles are completely different. Don't do that. Learn from my mistakes. But listen, if there's any questions, I've got Q&A. If there's time, Danny, and if there's anything anybody wants to ask.
Okay. Thank you for that presentation, Robin. I really, really learned so much from that. I really appreciate that. Raphael, I see you have your hand up. Hi.
Hi, Robin. Raphael here. Thank you very much as well. I've got a very quick question. You mentioned about the rights to our headshots. And what about if a newspaper, magazine, or TV is asking for any headshots from us? They did an article about us and they want to just publish next to our headshot. Can we use it without your rights, or they have to contact you? We're talking about mainstream newspapers, magazines, and especially online publications.
Yeah, they would have to. They'd have to contact the photographer. And the safest thing, Raphael, just to make sure you don't fall foul, is just check in with the photographer or ask them to check in with the photographer. It's really about sort of promotion. Any magazine or online article that's saying, look, we've got an interview with Raphael. You know, he's a really high-profile actor. Look at us, we managed to get an interview for him. They're selling themselves, you know, so they're using your headshot for their own marketing purposes, and that's where it doesn't include it. That's where they'll need to. They can do that, but they just need to contact the photographer and usually pay a small license fee or something like that, you know. So it's not that you can't do it, but you just you have to make sure that you've spoken to the photographer and got everything dotted and crossed. I had a client who's in Corrie, and she was part of sadly it wasn't a very nice story, but she was part of a story, and the BBC contacted me and said, you know, can we just use your headshot on the app? And I said, yeah, it's fine, it's no problem. You know, it was it's for the purposes of what it's being used for. You know, it was an unfortunate story for the girl, and I had no problem with them using the headshot to illustrate the story, you know, and tell her story.
Awesome. Thanks, Raphael, for that question. That was fantastic.
I'm producing my own material. Say again?
Sorry, it just cut out then.
What about the same thing when I'm producing my own material, like for instance, short film or feature film, and I want to do a promo pack with me? I have to ask for permission, or I can use it without permission? Like for instance, you know, main characters, main cast, or producer, and my headshot next to a bio, or I have to also have a right to that.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say that's fine. From speaking personally, because it's up to the photographer what they have to license the photographers for the photos for. If it's a cast announcement, then that's generally fine because you're promoting the actors. as much as anything else. So it's a bit of a grey area because you're promoting the project, but you're also promoting the actors. So it does fall under promotional material for the actors. So for me, that would be fine. What wouldn't be fine is if it was key artwork, i.e. the posters that you see for a play or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're using the headshots for the artwork, you know, usually blended in with a bit of something else or something like that. That would need permission from the photographer because you are using that poster to sell the play or whatever it is you're doing, you know. And you're monetizing the headshots, so you would need permission from the photographer then.
So exactly. So rule of thumb is just simply if it's, you know, just for marketing purpose, it's okay. But when you got any money monetizing your headshot, then you have to have a right from the photographer.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. If it's promoting the actor, it'll probably be fine. But if somebody else is making money from it, i.e. a production company or something like that, then you need to talk to the photographer.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant.
No worries.
Anyone else have any questions for Robin whilst we're here? We've got a hi, James.
Hi, thank you very much for this. Firstly, I think Robin, you touched on this earlier, but do you have a suggestion or a recommendation about roughly how many different looks for a list, for example, about different casting brackets? How many different looks do you think is a good number for an actor to come in with, like 4 or 5 different looks and casting brackets? Is that a number?
I mean, yeah, it goes back to the fact that you can't play everything. People say to me in sessions all the time, you know, I don't want to pigeonhole myself. I want to get seen for everything, you know, but it's like, well, you're not really going to get seen for everything. You know, some actors are wonderfully talented and gifted and have a broad spectrum, you know, and will get seen for all stuff if their agent can get them in the room for those kind of things, you know. But you do want to focus it down. You do want to make sure you know what you are. And to answer your question, 4 or 5 is a pretty good number. I have a little blackboard. People will attest to this in the studio. I have a little blackboard, and as we're talking, actually, I make notes. I capture notes and stuff like that. Now we might have sort of 7 or 8 things up on there, but some of those kind of sort of blend into one a little bit, you know. Let's put it this way. How many photos do you want on your spotlight page? Because that's what it comes down to. And I would say that you don't really want more than about the figure you said, about 4 or 5. A mistake that people make, I think, is they do a bit of a scattergun approach and they put up 12 or 13 or something, you know. And I think the impression that gives to casting directors is you don't really know what your casting is. You don't really know who you are as an actor and what you can bring into a room, you know. If you've got 4 or 5 strong headshots that all say distinct different things about you, that's so much stronger. So I think the phrase is every photo on Spotlight should earn its place. If it hasn't earned its place, ditch it, get it off Spotlight. You don't need it. So yes, I think you're about right, James. I think about 4 or 5 is probably right. You can come in with more than that, you know, but we'll maybe focus it down, simmer it down a little bit, and it might result in, say, like 4 or 5 pictures on your Spotlight page.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
no worries.
James. Appreciate that. Any more? Just scrolling through people's. No, I have learned so much, Robin. Thank you so much for this. This has been such a great session. Yeah, thank you for coming in.
Robin, just before we finish, can you stop screen sharing so we can see
Oh,
you?
sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I should have done that.
There we are.
Apologies. There we go. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
No, well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's been really great. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much indeed.
Yeah. Thank you, Robin. And, you know, thank you everyone for coming along tonight. Really appreciate it. And yeah, see you on the next one.
All right.
Very nice.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very much, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you so much, Robin. That was really
You're
helpful.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, there they all go.
Daniel, I'm
Yes,
still
Rafa.
here. You have a second right now, just literally second.
Go on.
Guys, first of all, thank you very much for a lovely workshop. But I've got 2 questions. Actually, it's to both of you. One is, is it okay? You know what is happening right now in Ukraine, everywhere. Everybody knows that. Especially you guys know that because England was the first to act, not only talk but act. So big chapeau to any English, people and the government.
Ask the question.
The question is 2. Is it okay if I'm gonna bring for those free. They're not free, but you know, it's okay if I'm gonna bring some Ukrainian actors just to participate and just to be you know guests of it.
Yes.
We would,
Because
we
you
would
know,
love that.
Yes.
because I'm asking this one because I don't feel
Your time,
right.
Raphael. Yes, that's it.
Because I don't feel right participating in it. It's just for me. It's just like you guys are saying thank you to your students.
Yeah.
So you know, but as long as you're inviting me, I'm just being sorry. I'm just being you know horrible with that.
Yes.
So it's okay.
Let's move
And
on.
the second one, I've got an idea, Daniel. You have in your online classes, yes, and you know, and ask your students if it would be okay if I don't know how many students you've got, but probably you've got many of them. If we could just donate £1 each every week, and then just give a class to one of the Ukrainian actors.
So
with
put
online.
up, Raphael, put up on my Facebook group a suggestion
Mhm.
and a way of them paying. If it's a power, I can't do it through my bank account for that because there'll be it's just keep it up. But absolutely yes, Danny and I were talking about it in terms of ACI, you know, our school.
Yeah.
But just do it in any case on the Facebook group.
Yeah, I'll you know have to write it nicely, and you know so everybody will understand it, because doing £1 per week
Yeah.
for each of us is nothing. And you just
We
like,
also
you
have
know,
Danny and I are doing a kindness fund with the school in any case, which we're you know, for people who can't afford it. People who can afford it are putting money into a fund, and that's helping to fund some people's classes. So yes, send us the stuff, send us whatever you want, we'll look at it.
Yeah.
And the likelihood is if it's good enough for you, it's good enough for us.
perfect.
Okay.
Lovely.
Thanks, Raphael.
Thanks again one more time.
Thank you, Raphael.
And see you
Bye.
during the next session. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye. So he's very generous. He won an award for a monologue slam thing, and he used the money to pay for an actor to come to my classes.
Nice. Great.
That was fantastic, Dan.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Robin wrote that session specifically for tonight. He's such a
I'm
lovely
sure he'll
guy.
get something. I'm sure he'll get something out of it.
And
You
you know
know,
what I loved about it was he wasn't just flogging his services. It was
He doesn't
you know,
need to.
whatever. So, all right,
All right.
take care.
See you soon. Keep going.
Bye.